kitchen with a cup of coffee today, and I am so excited because it is a new year, and even though it's so cold and dreary outside, it is the time of year where I get to sit down and start dreaming up and planning my spring garden. So I've been doing a lot of seed shopping and going through seed inventory and just dreaming about what I want my spring garden to be. So I just wanted to share how I go about that, how I plan my spring garden, what some of my new year garden goals are going to be for this year, because every year I like to focus on something a little bit different and kind of get better and hone in my expertise on that area. So I just want to share a little bit about that with you, so let's jump in. So the very first thing that I do when I am planning my spring garden is to go through my seeds and check all what I have still, what I'm missing. And so I have still in my kitchen, I have not removed my seed starting stuff since I started in the fall because I knew this would come right up quickly. So I keep all of my seeds in kind of like a photo storage box. And so I have everything kind of labeled out. And so I will just kind of go through each little box and see what I still have or what's not missing. If I'm like low on supply of something, so I will just kind of go through my seeds and check my inventory first. The second thing that I will do, and I'll also just kind of make a list of like what I'm missing. There we go. So the second thing I will do, once I have a list of any seeds that I'm missing or low on supply of and kind of needing a little bit more, is that I will then go through some seed catalogs. Right here I have a Baker Creek Heirloom Free Seed Catalog and a Johnny's Seed Catalog. And I will just kind of sift through those, which is so fun. These are gets me so excited about spring gardening and just looking at the different varieties of stuff. And I will just kind of see if there's maybe some new varieties that I want to try. Maybe in some of the stuff that I was missing, I will see if there's new varieties I want to try, or just maybe something didn't do well for me in the past, so I want to reach out and just branch and try something different because I didn't really like the way that did here. Maybe it didn't suit my climate so well. So that's kind of what I do, and I will just go ahead and make a list of everything that I want to get, and then I will place an order for seeds. Now, if you have not ordered seeds yet, I would say go ahead and make sure that you are ordering your seeds now. And I would even order seeds for stuff that you may be planning and thinking about for the fall, because this is the time of year when seed stores are really stocking up on their seeds, and you can't guarantee that they will still have that variety in the fall. So I would think about and plan out what you also may want to have seeds for in the fall, and do one big seed shop early in this year when all the seed stores have resupplied all of their stuff. So the second thing that I do when I am planning my garden is to come out and take stock of kind of what I have in my garden currently, what I have growing, and kind of just take a look around at what I have in my beds and what I would like to have for spring, what I think will kind of move out and be ready to harvested by the time my spring garden will get here, and by the time I'm starting to move my plants outside and transplant. So that is the second thing that I do. So I know it's covered up right now, but for instance here I have in the front, I have my two kind of like herb beds and flower beds, but I know that I always plant something on this trellis, which is currently open, so I'm gonna have room to plant something there. I know that I currently have some sweet peas which are flowering that are non-edible, they are toxic, on this trellis I mean, which I'm not sure if I'm gonna leave those there, because I'm not thinking, based on what I want to grow for spring, that I'm gonna still have room for that, and that I'm gonna want to spend a whole trellis on something that is not even flowering, like, you know, and doesn't provide food. So I may end up pulling these and replacing it with something else. I know that I have some late starts on some of my cabbages here, although some of them will be ready, but these will be slow starting, and so these will probably still be here by the time I'm moving plants outside. I do have some broccoli under in this bed, which got a little bit of freeze damage, but you know, some of them are going to be ready to harvested, some of them are still growing and will not. This whole bed is bolting and getting seeds, so this one will be entirely available. This one will not be available because the kales are still getting going because those had a late start. I know I have these 2 trellises, and then most of all the section around here except for maybe the carrots, and then that entire section around the garden shed over there. So I like to walk around the garden and just kind of envision what I would like my spring garden to look like and kind of get an idea in my head. I think that for this front trellis up here in the front, I know that I just got a new set of seeds that I ordered that is a flowering vining, what is it called? Or black-eyed Susan. So I would love to have that on one of these vines. I also got blue butterfly pea, which I also would love to have that on this vine, but I don't know. So I'm just kind of making little plans, thinking about what seeds I have and what I'm planning to grow, and kind of trying to envision what I want my garden to look like. Another space that I don't talk about as much is, but I have this pollinator island that has some stuff that'll be growing back because they're perennial, like hydrangeas and stuff like that, but there may be some space that I can throw something like a squash or something else like that in here as well. So that is another option that I can use this for food. It's all organic soil, so if I have room here, which I don't know, I can also throw things in here as well. But I have a lot of flowering herbs that are gonna come back or may start by, like, that's a chamomile, hydrangea, just different little things. So that's another option. Another really good reason why you may want to take note of what you have currently in your garden. You may also want to think about what you've had in the garden maybe earlier in the spring, so that if you've had any areas where you've grown something multiple times, you may have diseases or something like that that has cropped up. You want to make sure that you kind of rotate your crops out so you don't have any carryover disease or less chances of that and things like that. So that's another reason why I like to kind of take note of what's in my garden, take note of what I've had in that area in the past, and kind of just switch things up a little bit so that going forward I can not have as many pests or disease or different little issues that may happen from that. The third thing that I do, once I've gotten all my seeds and know what I'm purchasing and planning to grow, once I've taken stock of what my garden looks like and what plants I currently have in there, then I come in and I kind of do a little sketch of my garden and kind of draw out and kind of plan where I want things to be, just so I can have kind of a hard paper visualization, and so that when I go to plant things, I kind of have an idea of maybe how much I need, or just kind of like where I want everything, so I can really see it. So this can be as elaborate or simple as you want it to be, and don't make fun of me, I'm not an expert drawer, but so this would be my garden shed. And so I would know that I have trellises there, and I have a little bit of area down in the front where I can also plant stuff as well. So I drew up a little picture of my garden shed, and I'm gonna draw some what I want there. And then I also have the layout of my garden. I have 8 raised beds in total. It's a pretty small garden, but it's perfect for my boyfriend and I, and feeds the amount of food that we need. I don't really need that much. So I know I have several different trellises that I also drew in there. I know that these front 2 beds are going to be my herb beds, and those are already full, and so I'll probably draw in some herbs there. But then I can kind of draw out and plan what I want my garden to be. I know that these 2 trellises connect all the way to the ground, which is a little bit better for things like being to be able to grab onto the trellis right away, whereas these stand-up trellises around this and around my garden shed have a little bit of space before a plant can actually reach that. So typically those have been better for things like my tomatoes, but now I'm gonna have to figure out, because I do want to do a little bit of crop rotation from this spot, because I've had tomatoes there several times in a row already, that I kind of want to move some tomatoes from there. So I kind of need to think about what I can grow there that I can kind of get to latch on and be able to do that little space, or how I want to transition that. Maybe I'll put in little pieces of bamboo or something just to help until it can reach that trellis. So that's something I kind of need to think about, and something I'm keeping in mind as I'm planning out this garden space. So now is the fun part where I'm gonna draw in and fill in what I want my garden space to be, and I'll show you when I'm done. Finished yet, but you can kind of get an idea of what I do. So I know I want to do tomatoes here still, so I drew in some tomatoes. I also want to do some squash and some flowers around the bottom. So I know I want some squash in this area because I want to maybe do a little insect netting over it. I may end up changing my mind on some of this stuff still, but I'm basically just drawing in what I kind of want it to be, and so that's something that this is kind of what I've planned for around the garden shed, maybe some sunflowers mixed in there as well. I also think that would be really pretty around the garden shed, so that is one thing. And then I have started working on my other little diagrams. So I know that this was a kale bed, and then I know that this has like broccoli in it, so I haven't finished that yet. This part has some onions, this part's gonna have carrots. And so I started drawing in some, I think I want some beans on this trellis. I may switch out the varieties, but beans here. I also know I have the Susan vine that I want here, so I don't know what I want with it quite yet. I grew butternut squash here last year, and then in the fall I did runner beans. And then I think I'm gonna do tomatoes here, and then maybe some beans and melons and climbing squashes and different stuff on these two trellises. And so I just need to kind of think about what I want in the beds, and I know I'm gonna do some lettuce. So I'm basically just trying to figure that out, but I would be here all evening still thinking and drawing, and I want to be able to take my time and really figure it out. So I don't want to finish the whole thing now, but I did kind of want to show you and give you an idea of what I do. So that is what I do. So I also have several goals for this gardening season. Every year I like to pick a new plant or something to really get better at growing it and really learn how to master that plant so that I can have better harvests. And it's typically something that I really struggled with in the past and haven't really done so well with. So last year I really focused on tomatoes and having a really good tomato crop. And if you ever watched my tomato harvest video or some of my garden tours, I feel like I really finally successfully grew tomatoes well and really took my time to really learn about them and make sure I really did all that I could to grow good tomatoes. And so this year I really want to focus on squash and cucumbers. I battle cucumber bugs, not cucumber bugs, but squash bugs and squash vine borers so seriously every year, and I always get questions about how to handle those type of bugs, and I always wish that I had a really good answer or something to say, because I have not conquered that yet, and they overwinter here and burrow in the ground here in Florida, and every year they just come back and then they make their way up north. And so it's just something that we have so seriously here, and I'm hoping that with some of the hard freezes that we've had this year that we didn't have last year, that will be a little bit better and we'll have a little bit less pest pressure this year, but I don't know if that to be true or not. So one of the things I'm really focusing on this year are cucumbers and squash and anything kind of in that family, melons that always get just eaten up by squash bugs and vine borers every year. So I'm thinking of getting some insect netting and some different little hoops to kind of keep things covered, maybe some different various, last year I did a lot of stuff with diatomaceous earth, maybe trying some neem oil and just different things, but I'm really leaning towards netting, insect netting, and really hoping that I can really get a good round of squash and melon and cucumbers and all those things before the pests take over this year. So that's one thing that I'm really focusing on. Another thing that I really want to have happen this year, and this is not necessarily a garden one particular, but I really want some blue egg layers. I've been trying, ever since I got my first hens, I've been trying so hard to get some blue egg layers. I ended up getting a rooster. Then my girls went broody this spring and I got some hatching eggs, and out of those hatching eggs, only 2 hatched. And one got swooped up by a hawk, and then the second one ended up being a rooster as well. So those blue egg layers didn't end up panning out either. So now I'm going to try again, hopefully, and have some blue egg layers because I desperately want a blue egg layer to add to my flock. So that's another really big goal. Another goal, and I don't know if this one will happen this year, but I really love to have a hoop house so that I can have it for next winter and be able to grow some warmer stuff and tomatoes in the hoop house. And be able to have that throughout the winter. That is a kind of a more expensive thing, so I don't know if that'll happen or not, but that would be so cool, and that's definitely on my budgeting list, and that's something that I'm planning for and hope to have in the future. What else was another one of my goals? I've been thinking about these a lot. And my last two goals is that I really want to get into compost and having a compost bin. I do a little bit of worm composting already, but I want to have like a really big hot compost area and just set up a good little bin turnover situation for that. And then I also want to have like a little covered roof area, maybe even just like a shade covering where I can have like a pergola and let some vines take over the pergola, just so I have a little shade over area over my sitting area out in the garden. So that'd be another little fun project that I'm thinking about for this year as well. Again, these are goals. They may not all happen, but those are things that I have on my radar and have been thinking about and planning and dreaming about for this New Year's. So I hope this was really, really helpful, and this gives you some ideas about how to plan your spring garden. And if you're still itching and getting ready and wanting to start, another thing that you could do is go ahead and start getting your seed supply stuff ready. I know that's something that I am about to go through and get ready this evening as well, is just kind of go through my seed supplies and make sure I have everything I need there as well. And so I hope that all your garden dreams and all your garden goals come to fruition this year, and that it's just such an enjoyable and great year for you. And I hope you have a wonderful and happy new year, and I will see you all next week. Bye guys.